What's up, guys? My name is Dominique. And this is James.
And I'm James.
And we're going to be talking about how do we not just focus on negative things.
Come on.
A little bit of yay.
Come on.
And some game awards. So stick with us. All right, guys. Today's big question is, how do we not just focus on negative things?
That is a wonderful question, especially considering there's a whole lot of negative things out there.
Everywhere.
So the first thing you do to not focus on negative things is you sing.
Yeah, we can start there.
You can start
there.
there.
It'll probably rise your endorphins or something like that.
Come on, that sounds scientific.
Yeah.
Another thing you could do to not focus on negative things is actually go to the source of truth and positivity.
I like that better.
Jesus, God, and through his word, there's this beautiful verse in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 that tells us, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. Only that which is good and helpful and beneficial to those who listen.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think this is so important is because it's really hard to control what we see.
Yeah.
But we all have the power to control what we say. And there's this other thing that Jesus says in one of the Gospels where he talks about how it's actually not what goes into your body that corrupts you.
Yeah.
It's what comes out of your mouth. Because what comes out of your mouth is born from your heart.
Yeah.
And so the wisdom that Jesus is inviting us into is this idea that the more we speak negativity, the more negativity corrupts every part of us. And the more that we become negative people, the easier it is to see and focus on what's negative.
Yeah.
So actually, if we want to get to the root of all of this, we got to get to the heart and figure out how do we cultivate positivity, goodness, love, joy, peace in our hearts. Otherwise, everything else is just going to be a losing battle. Because here's the deal, like, it is absolutely good and helpful and wise to watch what you watch, to not just mindlessly consume content that is degrading to other people, that's objectifying to women, to that's gonna force you to focus on things that just aren't actually helpful for you.
Yeah.
That's helpful. But there's so much of it out there that if you really want to overcome the negativity in the world, you got to get to the root of it.
Yeah. No, I think even recently I've really started working on creating boundaries in things that I watch on social media, things that I watch on TV, and even some friendships.
Absolutely.
There's just some friends where I'm just going to have to get coffee with. I'd love to catch up with you because I know that I love you and we've got great history, but because of just some of the things that, maybe different views or just whatever, I've got to keep a little bit of that distance. And then there's going to be other friends where I know God has placed in my life and that we're going to be iron who sharpens iron. Like, you know what I mean? And so,
Well, I think what's so helpful about that is the idea that negativity is contagious.
Yeah.
And if you're being negative and the people around you are being negative, then your negativity is actually going to feed off of each other.
Yeah.
Maybe the best thing you can do is take some time to get healthy.
Yeah.
Like almost like quarantine yourself from negativity just for a period of time and then appropriately bring that person back into your life. Like you mentioned, like maybe we're going to get coffee, but maybe you're not going to stay at my house the entire weekend.
Yeah,
because I'm only healthy enough to be a positive influence on you for maybe an hour or two at a time.
Yeah.
I can't handle 48 hours straight.
Yeah.
And that's wisdom. Those boundaries can be really, really beneficial. And then what I would say there too is if you find yourself among a group of friends where you're constantly complaining about stuff together, then that's a good indicator that you need to start being more mindful of what it is that you're saying. Because again, like the more you speak negativity, the easier it is to see negativity. And if you can train yourself to speak positively, you're actually going to train yourself to see things that are positive, that are good, and that are uplifting.
Yeah, that's so true. And I even find myself being the weird one because whenever people will gossip or be like, oh, I don't like this, or just negative talk, I'm like, well, what if we saw it this way? You know what I mean? And
That's good, though.
It's a good thing. And it can be so hard sometimes. Yeah. But I would just encourage you, keep going, like be the weird one. Because at the end of the day, like that weird positivity will be able to shut down the conversation sometimes.
Absolutely.
And that's just a boundary that I keep. So
absolutely brilliant.
We do what we can. News? You ready? Okay.
News time!
News time.
I was going to start singing the Mail Time song from Blue's Clues.
Oh, hey, that's my good type of throwback.
Just wasn't quite feeling it.
Okay, it's okay. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
Okay, we've got the Game Awards.
Yes, please. I don't know about you all, but I'm a gamer.
Yes.
Have been since I was a wee little lad.
Okay.
2 of my most anticipated games of all time came out this year and went head to head for the Game of the Year award at the Game Awards. That is
wow.
Elden Ring, the culmination of all that is Soulsborne up until this point in a Breath of the Wild-like open world. And it was a magical gaming experience. And God of War...
I love your passion.
Hey,
you go for it. You go. I'm so happy for you.
So much judgment in her face. She's just laughing at me.
I'm not.
But you know what? I'm gonna be weird different. I'm gonna keep going. God of War Ragnarok, the culmination of one of the greatest character arcs in gaming. I take that back. Not one of the greatest character arcs in gaming. All that to be said, they went head to head for Game of the Year. Elden Ring won. Not disappointed. Some of you might be. There's some other stuff that was in the running, but in my mind, it was just those two. God of War Ragnarok, though, tied for the most ever nominations in gaming history, took second place for the most awards. So they've got 11 nominations. They won 6 awards. Sorry, Elden Ring beat them out. Otherwise, they would have had a record. It was incredible. There were some announcements for some new games. I know I'm most excited about Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, because that is the next game from Software, the developer who created Elden Ring and Dark Souls and all of that stuff. I will stop talking, but let us know what you were most excited about or even disappointed by from the Game Awards in the comments. All right, Dom, back to you. We can move on from this.
Well, I played Sonic. So Ye went on Alex Jones' InfoWars podcast and talked about his commitment to Christ and loving others. Unfortunately, these statements were framed by a disturbing anti-Semitic triad. Ye has a documented history of mental illness, and the InfoWars footage makes clear that his symptoms are not well managed at the moment.
If you're unfamiliar, InfoWars is a kind of like news organization that tends to be pretty extreme towards the right.
Okay.
Kanye West is a musician turned fashion designer turned entrepreneur turned politician, kind of.
We're entering it.
I believe it was like late 2019, early 2020, who had this like coming to Jesus moment where he had kind of this radical transformation where he seemed to be really on fire for Christ. A lot of stuff was changing in his life. But what we've sort of seen since then is actually what we often see when people start to follow Jesus, where there's this initial burst of passion and change and transformation. But when you aren't actually in good biblical community, when you're not cultivating your relationship with God, spending time with Him in prayer, then what can happen is that fire will start to fade. And you can start to wrestle with, what does it mean for me to be Christian in my school? What does it mean for me to be Christian in my family? What does it mean for me to live out this new life in all of my old relationships? And so it seems like that might be what Kanye is struggling with, is trying to be somebody who has been a celebrity for a really long time, where it was all about him. Now, maybe trying to be a Christian and kind of messing it up almost every single step of the way. And so what I don't want to do is heap a bunch of judgment and condemnation on him, because I would hope that other people would judge me mercifully and graciously. And so that's what I want to do here. What I want to invite us to do is remember that this is why we look to saints and not celebrities as our role models.
Come on!
Because the reality is that the world celebrities operate in is not very conducive to living a life that is full of love and grace and full of Jesus. And so it could be that he is trying his very best and just stumbling every step of the way. That's why we all need grace. It could also be that this is a stunt to get approval from a group of people who are Christian. It could be that's the case. Whatever it is, if somebody claims Jesus but then demonizes Jewish people, what we know is that there is an inconsistency there. Because Jesus, who started the movement we call Christianity, was actually Jewish. And so to be a Christian and hate Jewish people is incompatible. To be a Christian and hate any people is incompatible.
Come on, somebody.
Because what Jesus said is that you got to love your neighbor, and also love your enemy, and pray for those who persecute you. That's the example that Jesus set for us. And so what we can do is look in our own lives and ask the question, am I surrounding myself with the people, with the resources, with the counselors, with the professional help that I need to make sure that I'm actually operating in a way that's honoring to God and honoring to others? And if I'm not, I need to change it. And then when I see people in the public sphere who identify as Christians, who are saying very unchristian things, maybe instead of starting with judgment and condemnation, maybe I should start with compassionate prayer for them. So that's what I would invite you to do, because that's what I'm having to challenge myself to do. Because my default is, bro, you ain't even a real Christian. Like, you're just saying all of this stuff. And here's the deal. I don't know if that's true.
And
I would rather err on the side of praying for him and believing the best than joining in with all the critics and throwing rocks at people.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't really build anyone up.
Yeah, well said. Earlier this month, Lensa became the #1 app in the Apple Store's photo and video category after releasing a feature called Magic Avatars. Customized pieces of AI-generated digital art. Lensa already has over 600,000 posts tagged on Instagram.
That's crazy, dude.
The technology has been trained on over 2 billion images, many of them copyrighted, which raises thorny questions about whether the tech is built off of unpaid labor.
That's a really interesting take.
That is.
Because I think for most of us, we see this and it's like, oh, this is cool, this is fun, this is awesome. Which I think we can take the good out of it. But that's a really important question to ask is, are artists who put in work getting ripped off because of this app?
Yeah.
And so I think that's another invitation for us to not just assume we know what we know based off of what we've seen at first glance, but to be open to asking further questions. We've talked about this previously on the show that when it comes to the internet, one of the worst things you can do is take everything you hear at face value.
Yeah.
Or take everything you see at face value.
Yeah.
Like, just because it sounds good doesn't actually mean it is good.
Yeah.
And it raises some questions about, is this actually moral? Is this operating with integrity? What is my responsibility as a follower of Jesus? I want to do everything I can to only do what is good and true.
Yeah.
And I want to be very careful about what's not. And so for you, maybe as you're exploring this app, you're like, I don't really see any issues with it. I don't think it's a problem. And if that's the case, that's okay. Like, that's you.
Yeah.
But for others of you, maybe you do feel a little bit questionable about it.
Yeah.
And you want to bring some awareness to these different artists and these people who have put together their works that maybe aren't getting the credit that they deserve. I think that could be a really great use of your energy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what we want to encourage you to do is something that we talk about literally every week, which is just think a little bit more Christianly about how you interact with culture.
Yeah.
Because we're called to a different standard.
For me, I have struggled with, how do I say, judging myself after I've made this mistake when really my intentions were pure from the start.
Right.
But what I think is I just need to make sure that the same grace that God has given all of the people around me, it's given to me as well.
Absolutely.
And to just apologize and to make right the mistake that I did make.
So good.
Big challenge, because here's the challenge for this week.
Yes.
Go 24 hours without saying anything negative.
That can be a big challenge.
Because the verse that we started with, about how do we not focus on what's negative, but focus on what's positive, is all about do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Only that which is good and helpful and beneficial for those who listen. So, 24 hours, no negativity out of your mouth. If you do it, come back to this video and comment and say, I did it. If it takes you all week to get one day, that's okay. That's real.
Yeah.
But that level of effort, I think, will help you become more of who God's created you to be.
Yeah. Awesome.
Somebody who truly is loving.
And I think it's the little steps too. You can start with, okay, today I'm not going to watch anything negative on TV.
Come on, that's good.
Okay, and then use that as a building block. Okay,
That's
I
really
feel like
good.
I've accomplished that. Let's do no negative things on Instagram or social media. Let's not gossip. Start small and then use those foundations to build. And then once you'll be able to look up one day and find, oh my gosh, like I really do feel like I'm a pretty positive person now.
Come on.
So, yeah.
That's good. Do that.
Thanks for joining us this week on Culture Makers. If you haven't already, like the video, comment down below, and also subscribe. Okay, bye. See you next week. And then there's the thing.